Okay, so today we're gonna dive into a topic. It's pretty tough, online child safety.
Yeah.
It's heavy stuff, but I think, that's why we do these deep dives, right? To get informed, even when it's about, disturbing things. And what we're focusing on today is this case, this recent case in the UK that kind of shook people up. A 10-year-old girl met a 24-year-old man on Roblox, and he ended up, grooming and raping her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just horrifying, and it really highlights how vulnerable kids are in these online spaces.
Yeah.
Even the ones that seem kid friendly, like we're talking about Roblox here. They've got like 80 million daily users, something like
It's
that.
huge.
Yeah, and 1 in 5 of those users are under 9 years old, so
Yeah.
it's a massive challenge to keep them safe.
Yeah. And I think, it's easy to assume these platforms are like safe havens for kids, but
Yeah.
but it's not that simple, is it? This case really kind of shows, the hidden dangers in these, seemingly innocent virtual worlds. So we're going to kind of unpack that a little bit. We're going to explore how this happened, what Roblox and other platforms are doing about it, and most importantly, what parents and caregivers need to know, right, to protect kids in this, digital age.
Exactly. This case goes beyond just one platform, right?
Mhm.
It's part of a broader trend we're seeing, where predators are using these online spaces to target children.
Yeah.
So why don't we start by looking at how this grooming took place? In this particular instance, the perpetrator Ryan Sutton, he connected with the victim on Roblox, and Roblox is known for these chat features and the social interaction that it encourages. But that was at the beginning, right?
Yeah, he didn't just stay on Roblox. He eventually moved their communication over to Snapchat, and that's incredibly popular with teens. And that seems like a classic grooming tactic, isn't it? This migrating to different platforms.
Exactly. Yeah, predators often try to isolate their victims. They try to move them to platforms where there might not be as much parental supervision.
Yeah.
And they take advantage of how interconnected these online spaces are because they know that kids move between platforms seamlessly to connect with their friends.
It's a chilling reminder that, we need to be vigilant across all platforms, not just the ones that we think are, quote unquote risky. Now, this case has brought a lot of criticism towards Roblox, specifically around their safety features and the potential for exploitation, There's even a report from Hindenburg Research, and they called Roblox an X-rated pedophile hellscape,
Mhm.
which is quite a disturbing description.
It's a very strong statement, and that report raised some serious concerns. Their investigation found instances of accounts being created using the names of infamous child molesters, and they also uncovered games and groups that seem to be trading in child pornography.
Oh, wow. That's incredibly disturbing. You have to wonder how content like that slips through the cracks, especially on a platform with such a young user base. It really makes you question how effective their content moderation really is.
Yeah, it's a valid point, and Roblox claims to take online safety seriously, but this report suggests that there are some significant gaps in their approach. They point to recent changes like limiting messaging for under 13s and offering parental controls, but the question is, are those measures enough? And this kind of raises a bigger question about the effectiveness of age verification and just the responsibility of platforms to proactively protect their users.
Yeah, it's a tough balance, isn't it? Because on the one hand, you want to give kids the freedom to, explore and connect online, but on the other hand, you have to protect them from potential harm. And it's a conversation that's been going on for years, but cases like this really, really bring it to the forefront.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not just about what the platforms are doing, right? It's also about how society is responding to these challenges. And this case, as horrific as it is, has actually spurred some legislative action in the UK.
You're talking about the Online Safety Act, right, which was passed in 2023.
Yeah, that's the one. It aims to regulate online platforms and hold them accountable for user safety, especially when it comes to children.
Okay, so how does it actually work? Does it give the UK government the power to just shut down platforms like Roblox or Snapchat?
No, not exactly. The Online Safety Act it empowers Ofcom. That's the UK's communication regulator, kind of like the FCC in the US.
Oh, right, right.
Um, and they have the power to enforce online safety rules, and they can impose some pretty hefty fines on companies that don't comply with these new regulations.
Ah, so they're hitting them where it hurts, their wallets. But some people might say that fines are just, a slap on the wrist for these big tech companies. I mean, are there more effective ways to hold them accountable?
Yeah, I mean, that's a debate worth having for sure. Some argue that fines alone aren't enough. They think there should be tougher measures like, criminal charges against executives or even the possibility of blocking access to certain websites.
Wow. Those are pretty drastic measures. It sounds like the UK is really trying to take a proactive stance on online safety.
Yeah, it's definitely a bold move, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. The Online Safety Act is a pretty complex piece of legislation.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of nuances to its provisions and how it might impact things. Maybe we should dedicate some time to unpacking that further.
Yeah, definitely. I think understanding this act is crucial for anyone who's concerned about online safety, not just in the UK, but globally, because, it sets a precedent and we might see similar legislation popping up in other countries.
Yeah, it's a landmark piece of legislation, and it's already sparked a lot of debate and discussion about the role of government in regulating the digital space. But before we delve into the intricacies of the act itself, maybe we should shift gears for a moment and talk about Snapchat's response to this case.
Yeah, it feels like we're just scratching the surface here, and Snapchat is a huge part of this story. I'm curious to hear what their response has been, Did they offer any insight into how Sutton used their platform to exploit this young girl?
Well, Snapchat did express condolences to the victim and her family, but their primary response was to highlight their existing safety features.
Mm-hmm.
They emphasized things like, mutual friend requirements for adding contacts, warnings about communicating with unacquainted users, in-app reporting tools, and parental control options.
So it's kind of like that familiar refrain that we hear from tech companies, right? We have the tools, it's up to the users to use them. But is that really enough? Shouldn't these platforms bear more responsibility for preventing this type of abuse from happening in the first place?
That's a really key question at the heart of this debate.
Okay.
To what extent are these tech companies responsible for the actions of their users?
Yeah.
It's a complex issue. There's no easy answer. And, while providing tools is important, some people argue that it's just not sufficient. They call for more proactive measures like advanced algorithms that can detect grooming behavior or stricter content moderation policies.
It makes you wonder, how much of this activity are they actually catching? And what about the perpetrator himself, Ryan Sutton? What consequences is he facing for his actions?
Well, Sutton was arrested and convicted. The details of his crime are really disturbing. He systematically groomed the victim over a period of time, starting on Roblox and then moving their communication to Snapchat. And this involved, text messages, phone calls, and even video chats. He manipulated her into believing that they were in a relationship.
It's chilling how calculated and deliberate his actions were. It wasn't just some random encounter. It was a carefully planned manipulation, and the police even found condoms in his bag when they arrested him, which kind of further indicates his intent, right?
Yeah, those details definitely paint a very disturbing picture of his premeditated plan. And the court ultimately sentenced him to 6 years in prison, with an additional year on extended license. So that means after he serves his prison sentence, he'll be under supervision and strict conditions for another year. He's also subject to an indefinite sexual harm prevention order, and that restricts his contact with children and his online activities. And he'll be on the sex offenders register for life.
6 years. It doesn't seem like enough for the trauma he inflicted on this young girl.
Yeah, and a lot of people share that sentiment. Sentencing guidelines for child sex offenses are often a subject of debate.
Mm-hmm.
There's some people advocating for harsher penalties that more accurately reflect the severity of the crime and the lasting impact it has on the victims.
It's a conversation that deserves our attention for sure. But for now, maybe we should shift our focus back to, the broader implications of this case and what it means for parents, educators, and just anyone who cares about protecting children online.
Yeah, this case really serves as a wake-up call. I think it compels us to have open and honest conversations about online safety, and equip both children and adults with the knowledge and tools to navigate the digital world safely.
Absolutely. We can't just bury our heads in the sand and pretend this isn't happening. It's time to address the elephant in the room, or rather the predator in the chat room.
Yeah, well said. And it's not just about fear-mongering, right? It's about empowerment. Knowledge is power in this context. The more we understand the risks, the tactics that predators use, and the resources that are available to us, the better prepared we'll be to protect ourselves and our children.
So what can parents and caregivers do? What concrete steps can they take to mitigate these risks? I mean, short of banning all technology and, living off the grid, which isn't exactly realistic for most families.
Right, right.
Yeah.
We need a practical solutions that actually work in the real world.
Yeah.
And the first step is awareness and education. Parents need to familiarize themselves with the platforms that their children are using,
Yeah.
and understand the safety features that are available and have, open conversations about online safety.
But how can parents keep up?
Yeah.
Kids are constantly finding new apps and websites. It's like a never-ending game of whack-a-mole.
Yeah, it definitely can feel that way. But it's less about, being a tech expert and more about fostering open communication and building trust with your kids. Encourage your children to come to you if they encounter anything disturbing or uncomfortable online.
Hmm.
Let them know that they can trust you and that you won't overreact or punish them for sharing their experiences.
That's so important. I remember being terrified to tell my parents if I messed up online, thinking they'd take away my internet access or something. And
Yeah.
it created this barrier to communication.
Exactly. It's about creating a safe space for dialogue, not punishment. And alongside open communication, setting clear boundaries and expectations about online behavior is really crucial. Discuss things like, appropriate content, the risks of sharing personal information, and interacting with strangers.
Right. It's like setting rules for the real world, right? You wouldn't let your child wander off with a stranger at the park, so the same principles apply online.
Precisely. And just as we teach children about stranger danger in the physical world, we need to equip them with the skills to identify and respond to potentially dangerous situations online.
So what does that look like in the digital realm? What are some of the red flags that parents and children should be aware of?
Well, it's about teaching them to recognize warning signs,
Mm-hmm.
like someone asking for personal information or pressuring them to keep secrets or making them feel uncomfortable and emphasize that it's okay to say no or block someone or report suspicious activity.
It sounds like, knowledge and awareness are our greatest weapons in this fight. The more informed we are, the better equipped we'll be to protect ourselves and our children. But this responsibility shouldn't rest solely on the shoulders of parents and children, right? What about the role of schools and educators in promoting online safety? Yeah, we've talked a lot about what parents can do, but they can't be the only line of defense. Schools and educators have a huge role to play here too, don't they?
Absolutely, yeah. Schools are vital in this whole effort. It's not just about teaching kids how to use technology,
Right.
It's about teaching them how to use it responsibly and safely. We need to go beyond those old stranger danger lessons from back in the day.
Yeah, because the digital world has gotten so much more complicated. I mean, back when I was a kid, the biggest risk online was like accidentally downloading a virus or something.
Right, exactly. The threats have evolved, so our education needs to roll up too.
Hmm.
We need a comprehensive curriculum, something that's age appropriate and really tackles these issues head on, like cyberbullying.
Yeah.
Privacy settings, how to recognize fake news, even understanding how online grooming works. These are all things that kids need to know about.
It's like the internet is basically a second reality for kids these days. We teach them how to be safe in the real world, so why not the virtual one too?
That's a great point.
Oh.
And this can't just be a one-time lesson either,
Yeah.
right? It needs to be an ongoing conversation, something that's woven into different subjects,
Mm-hmm.
and different school activities.
So it's a team effort. It's parents, educators, and we can't forget about the tech companies themselves, right?
Oh, absolutely.
They're the ones who build these platforms, so they have a responsibility too, don't they?
Yeah, especially when those platforms are clearly aimed at young users. The
Yeah.
design needs to prioritize safety right from the start. It can't just be an afterthought.
Yeah. But here's the thing, these are businesses, right? Their bottom line is profit. And
Yeah.
and engagement often drives that profit. So how do we incentivize them to actually put safety ahead of those metrics?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
Legislation like the UK's Online Safety Act is definitely a start.
Okay.
It holds companies accountable for harmful content and it pushes them to implement stronger safety measures.
But it feels like it's always a game of catch up. Technology evolves so fast and the people who want to exploit it are always, finding new ways to do it. It can feel kind of overwhelming, to be honest.
It's true. There's no easy solution, but that doesn't mean we just give up, right? We need to keep pushing for better safeguards, better education, and just a more collaborative approach between everyone who's involved.
I think that's what's hitting me the hardest in this deep dive. It's easy to feel powerless against this huge digital landscape. Like, how can we possibly protect kids in such a vast and ever-changing environment?
I get it. It's a natural reaction, but we're not powerless.
Okay.
Every conversation we have, every boundary we set, every safety feature we use, it all adds up. It all contributes to creating a safer online environment, bit by bit.
I love that. It's about empowering ourselves and our kids, not letting fear take over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not just about protecting children either,
Right.
Adults are vulnerable online too. The lessons we're talking about here, they apply to everyone.
So as we wrap up, what's the key takeaway you want listeners to remember?
Well, I think the most important thing is that this is a shared responsibility. Parents, educators, tech companies, policymakers, we all have a role to play.
Yeah.
And the most powerful thing we can do is keep talking about it, keep learning, and keep working together.
That's a great point. The internet is an amazing tool, for connection, for education, for entertainment. But like any tool, it can be misused. It's up to us to use it responsibly and to teach our kids to do the same.
And one of the most crucial skills we can instill is critical thinking.
Yeah.
Teach kids to question what they see online, to be wary of strangers, and to trust their gut instincts. That's a really powerful defense against manipulation.
I actually feel a bit more hopeful after this conversation. It's easy to get lost in the darkness of it all, but there are people out there fighting for a better, safer online world.
That's what matters. It's a challenge, but it's one we can face together.
And on that note, we'll leave you with this thought. As technology keeps advancing, what new challenges will we face in online safety?
Yeah.
What role will each of us play in shaping that future? It's something to consider as we move forward in this, ever-evolving digital world. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure. Stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe online.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about what parents can do, but it can't just be on them, right?
Right.
Schools and educators, they got to be a big part of this too.
Absolutely, yeah. Schools they're vital. We got to teach kids not just how to use technology, but how to use it safely, responsibly. It's got to go way beyond those old stranger danger lessons,
Yeah, because the online world is a whole different beast now. I mean, when I was a kid, the worst that could happen was, like, you accidentally downloaded a virus or something.
Exactly, yeah. The threats, if they've changed, so our approach to education needs to change too. We need like a proper curriculum, something age appropriate that really gets into the nitty-gritty. We're talking cyberbullying, privacy settings, how to spot fake news, even understanding how this grooming stuff works. Kids need to know this.
It really is like a whole second reality for them now, We teach them how to be safe in the real world, so why not the virtual one?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it can't just be like a one-off lesson, right?
Right.
It needs to be an ongoing thing.
Right.
Part of different subjects, different activities in school.
It's a team effort for sure. Parents, educators, and we can't forget the tech companies themselves.
Oh, for sure.
They're the ones building these platforms, so they have a responsibility here too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially when the platform's clearly for kids. Got to build in safety from day one.
Yeah.
Not just tack it on later.
But these are companies, right? Profit is the goal and engagement is how they get there. So how do we make sure safety comes before those things?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Legislation like the UK's Online Safety Act, that's a start, at least.
Okay.
Holds companies accountable for the bad stuff.
Yeah.
Pushes them to make things safer.
But it feels like we're always playing catch up. Technology is moving so fast, and the people who want to exploit it, they're always finding new ways. It can feel kind of hopeless,
It's true. There's no easy fix here. Doesn't mean we give up, though. Got to keep pushing for better safeguards, better education, and we all need to be working together more,
That's what I'm realizing during this deep dive more than anything. It's easy to feel so small against this whole online world. Like, how can we possibly keep kids safe in a space that's so big and constantly changing?
It's a natural feeling, but we're not powerless.
Okay.
Every conversation we have, every boundary we set, every time we use a safety feature, it makes a difference. It all adds up. We're making the online world safer, bit by bit.
I like that. It's about taking control, for ourselves, for our kids, not letting fear win.
Exactly. And it's not just about kids either.
Right.
Adults can be vulnerable online too. Everything we're talking about applies to everyone, really.
So as we wrap things up here, what's the one thing you want listeners to take away from all this?
This is on all of us, parents, teachers, the tech companies, the people making the laws. Everyone has a part to play. And the best thing we can do is just keep talking about it. Keep learning, keep working together.
Couldn't agree more. The internet's an incredible tool. It connects us, it teaches us, it entertains us. But just like any tool, it can be used for the wrong reasons. It's on us to use it responsibly and to teach our kids to do the same.
And one of the most important skills we can give them, critical thinking.
Yeah.
Teach them to question what they see online, be cautious around strangers, and trust that gut feeling if something feels off. That's huge. That can really protect them from manipulation.
I'm actually feeling a little more hopeful after this conversation. It's easy to get caught up in the bad stuff, but there are people out there fighting to make the online world a better, safer place.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
It's a tough challenge, but one we can tackle together.
So true. And on that note, we'll leave you with this thought. As technology keeps advancing, what new challenges will we face when it comes to online safety? What part will each of us play in shaping that future? It's something to think about as we all move forward in this ever-changing digital world. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.